Die now, beat Sage. The words were hissed, low and ugly, followed by laughter that bounced off the concrete walls of the kennel corridor. The heavy gate clanged shut behind Lieutenant Sarah Caldwell, the sound echoing louder than it should have. For half a second, the world seemed to pause. The air smelled of disinfectant, metal, and the faint musk of working dogs. The corridor lights hummed overhead. Somewhere nearby, a dog let out a deep, warning growl. Sarah didn't panic. She didn't scream. She didn't even turn around. She stood still, boots planted, hands relaxed at her sides, breathing slow and deliberate. Anyone watching closely would have noticed the way her shoulders stayed loose, how her eyes tracked sound rather than movement. But no one watching was looking closely. They were too busy laughing. "She's done," one voice said from behind the gate. Another added, "Told you the new girl wouldn't last." A third voice, louder and crueler, said, "Should have gone home while she could." The dog's growl grew deeper, closer. A powerful shape moved behind the chain-link fence at the end of the pen. Muscles shifted under fur. Claws scraped lightly against concrete. To anyone else, this would have looked like a nightmare. To Sarah, it was familiar. She exhaled slowly and spoke, her voice calm, low, steady. "Easy, Ranger." The growling stopped. Complete silence followed, so sudden it felt unnatural. The dog stepped forward into the light. A large Belgian Malinois, lean and powerful, ears alert, eyes locked not on Sarah's throat, but on her face. His body language shifted from defensive to curious in an instant. His tail wagged once, then again. Behind the gate, the laughter died. "What the hell?" someone whispered. Sarah knelt smoothly, never breaking eye contact with the dog. She held out two fingers, palm down, the universal working dog signal for calm engagement. Ranger padded toward her and Saturday perfectly. Sarah smiled for the first time since arriving at the base. "Good boy," she said softly. The silence on the other side of the gate stretched until it became unbearable. The gate rattled as someone grabbed it. How is she not? The gate swung open. Chief Petty Officer Mark Henson stood there, face pale, eyes wide, looking not at Sarah, but the dog sitting obediently in front of her. "What did you do?" he demanded, his voice cracking. Sarah stood slowly and turned to face them. "I corrected a mistake," she said evenly. Behind Henson were three operators from the unit, experienced, confident, and now visibly shaken. One of them, Senior Operator Jake Miller, looked like he'd seen a ghost. You just walked into Ranger's pen," he said. "He hasn't eaten since morning." Sarah's expression hardened. "He's on a controlled feeding schedule," she replied. "And you never throw someone into a canine pen. Ever." Henson swallowed hard. "You know protocol?" Sarah met his eyes. "I wrote part of it. That was when everything changed." Earlier that morning, Sarah had arrived quietly, just like she always did. No grand entrance. No introduction beyond what was required. She was the new girl. That's what they called her, but she'd stepped off the transport vehicle, carrying one duffel and a small locked case. Her uniform was clean, but unremarkable. No visible decorations beyond standard issue. Her hair was tied back tight, her posture professional but relaxed. She didn't look like what they expected, and that made her an easy target. The unit had been running joint exercises for weeks. Pressure was high. Tempers were short. When Sarah was assigned as a temporary attachment to evaluate K-9 integration protocols, most of them barely listened. A handler? Miller had scoffed earlier. "She doesn't look like one." "Probably paperwork," someone else had muttered. Sarah had heard it all before. She'd said nothing. She spent the morning observing, watching how the dogs were handled, how commands were given, how stress transferred from humans to animals and back again. She noticed things, small things, handlers talking too much, commands overlapping, dogs responding to tone instead of words. One particular dog, Ranger, was being pushed too hard by too many hands. She made notes. During lunch, Miller had leaned back in his chair and smirked at her. "So, new girl, you ever been bitten?" Sarah looked up from her notes. "Yes." He laughed. "Figures." She went back to writing. By late afternoon, the atmosphere had turned sharper. Someone made a joke. Someone else escalated it. It didn't take much. Bet she'd freeze if Ranger came at her, one operator said. Another laughed. We should test that. Henson should have stopped it, that he didn't. They told themselves it was harmless. A scare. A lesson. Nothing would really happen. They were wrong. Back in the present, Sarah stood between the open gate and the seated dog, her body language calm, but unmistakably authoritative. You endangered a working animal, she said quietly, and you violated training safety standards. Miller stepped forward defensively. We didn't think, no, she cut in. You didn't. Ranger stood and moved to Sarah's side, pressing lightly against her leg. She rested a hand on his collar, fingers brushing the engraved tag, the Ranger Service K9 handler. Yes, Henson noticed at the same time Miller did. Oh my God, Miller whispered. You're his handler. Sarah looked at him. Primary. The weight of it settled over them like a physical thing. You trained him? Henson asked. For 3 years, Sarah replied. Search, tracking, apprehension, obedience under fire. He trusts me, and you almost broke that trust. Henson ran a hand through his hair. We didn't know. That doesn't matter, she said. The commanding officer arrived minutes later, summoned by the commotion. Commander Alan Brooks took in the scene quickly. The open gate, the subdued operators, the calm dog, the woman standing like a wall between chaos and control. What happened? Brooks asked. Sarah spoke before anyone else could. Calm, clear, precise. They initiated unauthorized physical intimidation, she said. They placed me inside a restricted K9 enclosure without clearance. The animal responded correctly because he recognized me as handler. This could have ended very differently. Brooks turned to Henson. Is that accurate? Henson nodded slowly. Yes, sir. Miller looked down at the floor. Brooks exhaled. All of you step back. They did. He turned to Sarah. Lieutenant Caldwell, is Ranger okay? Sarah glanced down at the dog. He's confused, she said, but he's stable. Brooks nodded. Take him out of here. Sarah clipped the leash on her Ranger's collar and walked him past the stunned operators. Ranger didn't look at them. His attention stayed on her, where it belonged. Later, in the briefing room, the mood was very different, and no jokes. No smirks. Sarah stood at the front beside Commander Brooks, Ranger lying calmly at her feet. Brooks addressed the room. This unit prides itself on professionalism. Today, that professionalism failed. He gestured towards Sarah. Lieutenant Caldwell is not the new girl. She is a certified K9 handler with operational experience that exceeds this unit's average. She is here to improve our protocols, not be tested by intimidation. Silence filled the room. Sarah spoke next. I don't care about respect, she said. I care about safety. Working dogs aren't tools. They're partners. If you don't understand that, you shouldn't be anywhere near them. She looked directly at Miller. You said something earlier, she continued. Die now. That's not humor. That's a mindset problem. Miller swallowed. I am sorry. She nodded once. Good. Learn from it. Training resumed the next day, but everything was different. Operators listened when Sarah spoke. They watched how she worked with Ranger. Minimal words, clear signals, trust built over time. They saw how quickly the dog responded, how calm he stayed, even under simulated stress. During one exercise, Ranger located a hidden target in record time. Miller watched in awe. He's incredible. Sarah corrected him gently. He's disciplined. By the end of the week, even the skeptics had changed their tune. Henson approached her near the kennels one evening. You could have reported us immediately. I did, Sarah said. Through the proper channels. I mean, you didn't make it personal. She met his eyes. This job isn't personal. That's the point. That night, as the base settled into quiet, Sarah sat outside Ranger's kennel, cleaning her gear. Ranger lay beside her, head on his paws, eyes half closed. She pulled out her phone and recorded a short message. If you're watching this on the channel Generals and True Stories, make sure you subscribe. These stories aren't about revenge or ego. They're about accountability, discipline, and understanding the responsibility that comes with strength. She ended the recording and scratched Ranger behind the ears. Good boy, she whispered at Ranger's tail, thumped once against the concrete. Inside the command building, Commander Brooks reviewed incident reports. He paused at one line and shook his head. They had thrown the wrong person into that pen. and learned the hard way that experience doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it walks in quietly.